Kelly Slater.
You know, sometimes I just can't sleep because I'm so excited about surfing the next day.
With surfing being added to the Olympics for the first time ever in summer 2020, the 11-time world champ tells us what it would mean to add the Tokyo Games to his resume at 48 years old.
If I do qualify, I think it'd be great. I'd love to.
The Florida native still travels the globe to compete, but takes time to show us around his clothing company, Outer Known's headquarters.
You ever imagine that it would turn into all this?
No, it's definitely a fulfilling thing, and I just want to feel like I was part of helping make it happen.
Slater recently welcomed us to his newly minted surf ranch 3 hours north of LA for an exclusive look at the technology that may change the sport of surfing forever.
You're potentially going to spend all the money you spent your whole life making to go and try to build this thing that you hope works.
Later, Slater gives us a one-on-one lesson and reveals a talent that might surprise you. But first, we sat down in Malibu back in 2016, where Slater talked about how it all started.
So you started surfing around 3 years old. By 14 years old, you're beating professionals that have surfed longer than you are old. What do you think allowed you to become so talented at surfing so quickly?
You know, sometimes people just have good timing. Sometimes people have a natural talent. Sometimes they get lucky. And there's all these sort of things that can happen. I think a bunch of those parts of the formula were given to me in my life. So, you know, I think I was naturally talented. I think I was gifted with understanding the ocean, and it comes natural to me, you know. People look at the ocean that don't know anything about it, and they're like, that's crazy looking. But once you put yourself in this situation, you realize there's a flow to everything.
The danger that's inherent with your sport. How badly did you hurt yourself when you knocked yourself out in France not too long ago?
Yeah, I got knocked out. I laugh about it now, but I had to use all my brain power to not get post-traumatic stress disorder afterwards, because the wave just kind of bent away from me, so my board kind of got air and flew out of the water, and I just judged it wrong, and I over-rotated in the turn, and when I fell backwards, and my board separated from my feet and went below me, and I fell backwards and hit my head and got knocked out instantly. So I guess as I came to, I realized I was underwater, so I didn't breathe, and then I came up and I started going into shock really fast, and you know, potentially could have just drowned right then.
There was a columnist who tried to put your feats into context, and I thought it was really great. It was the best one I read, and it goes, I cannot think of another athlete who's matched Slater's genius for such a long period of time. Not Kareem or Wilt, not Gretzky or Nicholas, not Koufax or Babe Ruth, not Magic or Bird or the Pistol. One might go so far as to say that Michael Jordan and Roger Federer were the Kelly Slaters of their respective sports, and yet each of them would have had to sustain the artistry of their prime years for a quarter century to match Slater.
Wow.
That was kind of cool.
That's amazing.
You mentioned it'd be pretty cool at 50 years old to, you know, be doing it and still be able to carry your own. I mean, how much longer could you see yourself going for?
To me, there's just two things. It's you know, your body holding up, and it's your mind being open, and you also have to be able to think ahead of the curve a little bit. You have to see where things are going and be able to kind of predict that, or at least go in that direction. To have the inspiration and that excitement every morning like you have when you're a kid is really hard to do.
Yeah, I know you said in our last interview it'd be pretty cool to still be competing at 50, but also wouldn't be bad to play this one out. You compete in the Olympics, and then you call it quits at Pipeline, your favorite event in Hawaii.
I think Pipeline's probably a pretty safe bet that would be where I would announce my retirement.
Why?
It's just, well, I just love Pipeline. It's always kind of been my baby. I always wanted to go there and understand Pipeline and surf it. And it's the event I've won most on tour, and the place I've probably been most comfortable at and made all my surf buddies at in Hawaii. And it's just a place place I probably love the most. In my early 20s, I realized I had a lot of anger with my dad.
What did it take to get to the space where you were able to let that anger go?
Kalani Miller, Slater's longtime girlfriend, former model, and co-founder of swimwear line Miko, met Slater over 13 years ago and went to France on their first date. Not much has changed for the couple since.
LA time is always like a little delayed, but it's always kind of just last minute. So you have to be able to drop everything and just go. Like, I have no idea what we're doing tonight or tomorrow or the next day.
So you could be boarding a plane to some other part of the world tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, I would say the majority of Kelly's flights are booked on the way to the airport too, driving.
I think you were in high school even before your senior prom. You were already one of the top paid surfers in the world. And then fast forward a few years, I think you're around 21, going to buy a house. And I believe you find out you're basically broke. How did you handle that?
You know, my story's kind of like a lot of other stories out there you hear. And, you know, I grew up, we didn't have much money. I wouldn't necessarily classify us as poor, but no, we didn't have any money I mean, my mom was scraping quarters together to get my lunch paid for at school most days, you know, and not much help from my dad. You know, it's not a sob story, it's just the way it was in my family. You know, when you are raised that way, you don't have a lot of intelligence around money. I had already been a world champion. I had made over $1 million in my life at that point, and I was in debt, so it was a pretty quick wake-up call. It was an opportunity for me to take care of myself and take care of other people too, you know.
Throughout Slater's childhood, his father suffered from alcoholism, which eventually led to his parents' divorce and left his mother alone to raise 3 boys. Though their relationship was distant, Kelly and his father reconciled before his 2002 death from cancer.
How do you think his drinking impacted you growing up?
Yeah, alcoholism is a weird thing. You know, my dad didn't drink a hard liquor. He just liked to drink beer, but he would drink beer all day long, and he would think he had 2 beers, and he could barely walk, you know. And, you know, he wasn't like abusive to us or anything like that. It wasn't like some crazy drunk dad. It was just like, my dad was like the fun drunk dad. In fact, almost every single person my dad ever met, they liked him. You know, but some people didn't, you know, think he was the greatest guy towards my mom, and he was, I don't know, he taught me in different ways. Unfortunately, you know, some of the ways he taught me was by screwing up, and other ways it was by being funny and being a good dad.
Your dad passed away 62 years old after battling cancer for a couple of years, and from what I read, you were angry at him for a long time. What did it take to get to the space where you were able to let that anger go before he passed away?
In my early 20s, I realized I had a lot of anger with my dad. I remember, particularly in '95, I was 23 years old. I remember just having like nights where I'd go to sleep and I'd be so angry at my dad. And I talked to my mom about it one time, and she said, she goes, you know, well, what do you want to do about it? I said, I don't know, I just want to talk to Dad. I want to like ask him these things. She goes, look, you can do whatever you want, but you're probably not going to get the answer you're looking for, you know? She's like, I know your dad so well, he's probably not going to answer it in a way that's going to answer anything for you. You got to answer it yourself.
What do you want to ask him?
I don't know, just like why he drank so much, or, you know, why he was the way he was, or, you know, I don't even really know. I just had this anger towards him. And I think my mom saying that kind of resolved that for me, because I think I realized it was probably true. You know, he probably couldn't answer things for me that I needed to answer for myself.
You wrote in your book, there was never a time in my life that I grew so much. What about that period you think kind of allowed you to grow up? It's,
you know, one of the most awful feelings in the world. There's also this sort of like sense of like a There's just this sense that you've got to grow up and you've got to learn things, and you're sort of forced. You know, there's no direction to go except for to kind of answer things for yourself in some way. My dad didn't really, he never sat us down and said, listen kids, you need to, you know, do this with your lives. So you need, in fact, he was almost completely hands off in that way. I was going to have to find those answers elsewhere, and that was okay, you know. We worked for so long to try to get someone to believe in this project and what we were doing. And Jeff and I just said, look, we either need to shut this project down or go build it ourselves.
Any tips?
The motion's like this. Okay. Pretend your knee's gonna come up and almost hit you. No, don't do that with your other foot. You don't want to go like that, right? That's not cool. Breaking down, paralyzed with the thought of losing you. Oh, what a mess I've made. You know now I'm feeling the feelings again. You know now I'm feeling the feelings again.
So what was the motivation behind writing that one?
I don't know, I just woke up with it in my head. Sometimes I don't write something for a year or more, and then I can write 3 songs in a day or something, but I'm on no schedule whatsoever to have to write anything.
One
Here you
of the
go.
guys is...
Eddie Vedder pick, you can have that.
Oh, there you go.
Back in 2016, Kelly Slater gave us a tour of his clothing brand headquarters.
We're at my clothing outer known offices. This is 100% recycled nylon made from fishing nets. We went to the factory and actually saw how they do the whole recycling process.
Well, and that's really been important to you.
Yeah, that's our DNA, really, is to know where things are coming from and how they're produced, and be able to, you know, if somebody has a question about that, to be transparent about that stuff.
Seeing a need for permanent leadership, Slater recently hired Mark Walker, formerly of Jack Threads, Levi's, and Gap, as CEO of Outer Known.
The business is growing like a weed. I think when the brand started in 15, sustainability was still a little bit of an unknown word. And now people are much more aware of the decisions they're making.
You ever imagine that it would turn into all this?
No, never. It's definitely a fulfilling thing, and I just want to feel like I was part of helping make it happen. I mean, all these things I do, like, my heart's in them and important to me. We're socially compliant and Fair Labor Association certified. I would say that's probably the thing I'm most proud of.
Slater has been at work on another business project, one that has been a decade plus in the making: artificial wave technology, the science of producing a controllable, repeatable, man-made wave. Slater invited us to his surf ranch, which is not open to the public, to get a first-hand look at the technology.
When we last did the interview in 2016 was before this place opened. So I want to talk about your guy Matt, who used to shave your boards back in the day. I think one day he calls you about this wave technology.
Oh yeah, my shaper, yeah, Matt. He called me one day in about 2004 or 5 and said, you got to see this wave technology. And long story short, it just got my brain turning over and turned into this long process of trying to build this wave. And it took us essentially 10 years to make it happen.
Why did it get to a point where your partner basically says to you, you know, you got to get off the pot?
We worked for so long to try to get someone to believe in this project and what we were doing. And essentially that wasn't happening. And Jeff and I just said, look, we either need to shut this project down or go build it ourselves. And that was the scary moment, really. I didn't have any doubts about the technology and it working. I was just...
Wait, what was it about it that made that moment so scary, though?
Oh, I mean, think about it. You're potentially going to spend all the money you spent your whole life making to go and try to build this thing that you hope works, or once it does, that someone gets it. And it's a pretty confronting thing. You really got to believe in the thing you're doing. Our wave generator is called a hydrofoil, so it's just pushing through the water and creating this swell that comes off at a given angle, and the hydrofoil goes at a certain speed, so that dictates the size and the speed and the peel angle of the wave. And then the bottom is what, the way the bottom is shaped is what creates the shape of the wave.
What made you decide to involve USC's School of Engineering?
So we wanted a swell that could be sent from here to indefinite without losing its energy. And so they had to come up with an idea of how to approach that. And that's called a soliton or a solitary wave. So we've created a soliton here, and that's kind of like what our IP is. That's like our patent. And so the idea was to make the most perfect strong wave we could build.
Why did you wonder if, after you created this, if you just opened the door to something that would never be able to be closed again?
I don't know. There's a purity in just going surfing every day. Getting in your car and just driving along the coast and finding a nice wave, and it's a pretty personal thing, And then, I mean, we search all around the world for a perfect wave, To then sort of just have it like at the push of a button is. I just wondered if there was something real negative about it or not. Maybe I was a little oversensitive to it, but I think it's all come out in the wash. I think it's just, just another way to go surfing. It's not taken away from the ocean or anything. I think it's adding to that whole experience.
The World Surf League, which now owns a majority stake in Kelly Slater's wave company, has used the Surf Ranch to spearhead new forms of competition, which condense events that can take as long as 2 weeks due to weather out on the open ocean into only 3 days, and allows the league to capitalize on ticket sales and TV revenue.
How do you think it changes the sport?
It definitely allows for a different type of competition. The judges all judge just from video, not watching it live, which is a first. So it's set up to be more like maybe a time trials or a display of all your different skills at once. I think there's a chance to have a really good formula for it, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
The AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. What do you like about that event?
Pebble Beach, well, I mean, the first thing I love is, I just love golf. So just to play those 4 courses that time of year, it's a pretty special thing for us. And to get to play up close with a pro, generally I'll partner with somebody I know and we play as a team, so it's fun.
With the sport of surfing set to make its Olympic debut in summer 2020 in Tokyo, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to implement wave technology into worldwide competition.
The Olympics, I'm not sure. The only thing I'm really worried about with the Olympics is there will be a few really great surfers left out because of the way the qualification process happens. Because look, Brazil's got like 5 of the top 10 guys in the world right now. They're only going to be able to send 2 guys to the Olympics. And then the waves might be real small. Japan's a bit tough that time of year. And that, that brings up the conversation of wave pool technologies.
How surprised were you they didn't go that direction?
I was pretty surprised. I try not to make too strong of an opinion because I'm part of a company, but and that would look very biased. But at the same time, I thought that maybe they would want to have some kind of wave technology available, whatever it is, but something approved by the IOC. And I thought it would make a lot of sense for Japan because they're such a technologically advanced culture.
What would it mean to you to represent your country in the Olympics?
Should I qualify? If I do qualify, I think it'd be great. I'd love to.
After putting on some of Slater's outer known gear, he took me out on his man-made waves, where I embarrassingly attempted to put to use some of the lessons Slater taught me in Malibu the last time we were together.
All right, the plan is what?
We got one of our staff guys going to meet you at the red flag, hole number 30.
Okay.
As you get going, I want you to lean and set your line going basically parallel down the pool. Yeah.
Cool.
I got kind of destroyed there. It's a little embarrassing on an intermediate wave with Kelly Slater riding alongside you in a wave runner.
Second wave of the day.
Graham's down there ready. Let's see if I can catch up to him on the end of this wave.
That was fun. You got up on both of them pretty good, man. Oh, please.